name is Jessica, and I am the founder of Generation Y, which is also known as Save Uptown. I was born and raised in Washington Heights. I grew up in 180th. In high school, I moved to the Bronx, so that's where I live now. I work at a church in Dykeman, and I also have my own brand, which is called Generation Y, and the first project under it was Save Uptown. It was based off of emotions. I started off with stickers. I went around the neighborhood. I would just put them up. A lot were taken down. I would put them back up, and they'll keep being taken down. You know, like things like that. Like, I feel like people almost saw it as an attack on the people, and it's not. It's like so much bigger. From that, though, I went into like T-shirts. I have totes, hoodies, things like that, because I thought it would be a good way, a medium to get my peers involved in a sense, because a lot of it is passion, a lot of it is emotion, but we can't be just guided by those things. We need to have actual facts. And so I did zines to kind of bring that information to people in a way where they would be interested. I had workshops. I myself started going to community board meetings. We joined a lot of protests uptown during the rezoning, which a lot of people did come like with Save Uptown, which I was very, very proud of. I have 3 girlfriends. We're all Dominican girls. We hang out around in the park mostly. We had a bar that we would go to often uptown. Like us hanging out and noticing the difference in the way people treated us, the way the establishment was changing to cater to a new crowd. Like the looks that we would get just because we are loud and things like that we weren't getting before. So it was just something that led me to look into what gentrification even is, because it's something that I would hear the word itself and just think of Brooklyn. I just started just doing my own research, diving into what that really means, and then noticing that every time people talk about gentrification, the things that were brought up are white people, dogs, cafes, things like that. I just wanted to kind of shift the narrative and have a voice in everything, and just bring to light that there is more to gentrification and effects of gentrification than these things that we see popping up like dogs and cafes. Like, there are actual people that, you know, get hurt in the process, and the neighborhood does get better, but we can't lose sight of those very real effects. Gentrification is literally the influx of more affluent residents into a working class neighborhood. You'll find different definitions that use words like rehabilitation, you know, like beautification, just like making better of a neighborhood, which it does, but it negates to mention that the people that originally were here and made the neighborhood what it is don't get to reap from those benefits in the long term. Close to me, my friend is currently getting affected by it. Her building was just recently bought, and within that, older ladies that come to my job also live in that building. They are also like, they come to me with like lease issues and like with the new owners, things that come with that. Like, now everyone needs to move out to a different apartment for 2 years so that they could do renovations in that building. But with that, the promise is that you're gonna come back. Usually you don't. Usually they find a way to get you out. I guess my church job has helped me a lot, seeing the real effects. Like, women that know that they're getting sick, you know, because they're fighting their landlords, and tactics to get people out are just not keeping up with renovations, which leads to like infestation, rat infestation. You know, there was a building in Inwood where like 9 people from different apartments had to end up in the hospital because they weren't, you know, fixing these things. My own personal life, I do see it in my work life, and then also just having this platform, I've heard a lot of stories of people really getting affected, which we don't talk about. And I realized that it's not black and white. This is something that is happening, and it's going to continue to happen. It's not just here, it's all over the US. There's a quote that I like. It's respect existence or expect resistance. And I feel like a lot of people come into neighborhoods and want to change it, or they talk shit about it, or they just have a lot of negative things to say about it, negating the circumstances that brought people here, how the government even treats neighborhoods like these, what has led to the conditions that we currently live in. So it's just a lot of looking down upon. I guess just try to integrate into the neighborhood in a neighborly way. I think that if there were more spaces where everyone can meet in the middle, where it's not divided, where it's not like, obviously this is a gentrifying establishment, I think that it would just work out better. If we had the opportunity to have awkward conversations openly, if the establishments that were being opened weren't obviously geared towards a certain class of people. Foot Locker is brought up in my head a lot because they did involve the neighborhood in their process. The inwood rezoning really helped me further understand that gentrification is almost a side effect of rezonings. Being like involved and just aware of that process, it was very discouraging, I would say, because a lot of these meetings almost seem to be like for show. There were people that really made a whole alternative rezoning to that rezoning, and it wasn't taken into account, you know. The people that really do this rezoning, part of the process that they're supposed to be engaging the community, going to these small businesses, telling them like, hey, there's a rezoning and this is how it's going to affect you. These are the resources that can help you, which they didn't do. They still haven't even agreed to do a investigation, I guess, in how gentrification and rezoning affects displacement in a neighborhood. So they don't even know, you know, the magnitude of how a process like that affects a neighborhood, you know, like that. So it was very just discouraging. It was very unfair. I think it's very racially biased, classist, and they have a lot of work to do in really developing a process that we can say is a just rezoning. Because yes, rezonings do need to happen. We haven't had one uptown in like Lord knows how long. But even that, like what the process itself can be, it can be so much better. Like Brooklyn happened in a span of like, I'm gonna say like 20 something years. What we're experiencing now is unheard of. Like it was just, you know, like this, and this is only the beginning. With all the changes that we see now, you know, that rezoning was just passed a year ago now, and it's just gonna open the door to so much that is not even fully investigated. Just to bring up Foot Locker again, you know, like that, something like that coming to Washington Heights is setting the standard to what shops are going to be now on 181st. 181st to me was like the kids store that used to be Foot Locker, you know, like American Kids or whatever that was. Zodiac, you know, that's closed. That sneaker store next to Zodiac that's been closed for like 3 years. It's just an empty storefront, you know. Burger King just closed. I used to live in Burger King when I was little, literally. Children's Place is closing as well. And I feel like if these things are getting affected, like it should just let you know that now we've shifted from mom and pop shops to now like these bigger brand name stores are also can't even afford the rent. Like now they're also getting affected, making way for a Target, you know, like exactly, like a Chipotle is coming to 181st. Exactly, you know, like these things, they're just setting a new standard to what's to come. Like Dyckman itself, like we either have closed storefronts or 50 cell phone stores, you know, even on 181st too. And it's just like the only things that are going to be able to survive are these big brand name stores. Like we're not going to have mom and pop shops no more, and that's unfortunate, you know. But it also goes back to ownership, you know. We don't own this, we rent. So yeah, I just think that the fabric of the neighborhood and what attracts people to this neighborhood is just slowly just being dismantled, and in a few years we're gonna walk down Washington Heights and we're not even gonna recognize it because there's gonna be all these big brand name stores, not the homey feel that we have now. Everything that's happening here on 181st is just an effect of the rezoning, because the rezoning was just an inwood. It's like the Dyckman going to 10th Ave and going up 207. That affected a lot of street vendors. They had to move because they would camp out in front of kind of like closed storefronts, and that is not attractive to anyone who wants to rent or own that. I know that all of like the Sherman Creek area by the 207 bridge where you mentioned, that's on the other side, but even that parking lot is gone, and they're gonna build like high rises, you know. I don't even know the number, but like the amount of people that are projected to be brought into Inwood is insane. Like I think of traffic on that 207 bridge, the infrastructure of the train, like how insane the train traffic is right now. Like all those things are not being taken into account, and it's just people equals money, you know. And so a lot of those businesses on Sherman Creek have gotten displaced. Like there was a lady that she was like crying to Idanis at one of these meetings because she's been there for 30 years. She owns like a car repair shop or something like that, and she reached out to help for him, but his office said that they couldn't get her a meeting for like 2 months, you know, when she had to get out in like 3 days. They don't give anyone a chance to really stay, you know. So that whole Sherman Creek area is being kind of gutted, I'm gonna say, because everyone really like lost their lease almost. I know that they're making like a plaza, like a sitting area by 207, I believe. Which things like that are cute. They're cool. The library was sold for like $1, and they promised like a state-of-the-art library, but that's going to be closed for years to come, and we're going to get the library later on. You know, that's the only library in the Inwood area. A lot of people utilize it, elders, kids alike. You know, it's a lot. Like Sherman Plaza, which is on Sherman and Broadway. That parking lot just got evicted. They shut their power off. They were continuing their business off of a generator because they just shut it off to get them out of there, and they lost like their lease, so they're closed now. But that is supposedly going to turn into like a shopping type of center, you know, like. But even that's going to skew the view of like the park, which is, you know, across the street. We, as a community, I guess, hold accountable as Gnrtn Rodriguez, which is our council member as of right now. He really is an unfortunate case because he's part of this neighborhood, grew up here. It was really about the people way back when, you know, really did everything that we did to fight the rezoning, you know, to fight other issues, and now he's like on the other end cashing out, you know. I think that he was the most disappointing part in all of this because even in meetings, he would seem like disengaged. He didn't say much, and I think that he used the fact that he was Dominican in a predominantly a Hispanic neighborhood to his advantage because he did not give real information to the people. He'll say something, si se puede, and then everyone's like, oh, Ivanis, yes, you know, and I don't know, I think it was made into a racial thing instead of a classist thing, and instead of just offering the people real information, he used the emotion to kind of sway the people to believe that this was something good. I think that he was bought from the get, unfortunately. The people did a lot and said a lot that he could have taken into account, which he didn't. At the end of the day, I think obviously, to me, politicians are all puppets, and so there was an agenda there already, and he knew that, and he agreed to it without thinking of how it was going to really affect the community. The people that do the rezoning, they, again, you know, they could put so much more effort into how this affects the community and what happens after rezoning and how to really take care of the people in the community, how to actually present resources available to help preserve what's here. In the end, the neighborhood is getting better, obviously. We cannot deny that. It'll get better in terms of how much it's worth and the businesses that contribute to this neighborhood or put money into this neighborhood, the resources that will be available. You know, I think of like Foot Locker again because more things like that will come into the neighborhood. I don't know, I just feel like whatever comes with the rezoning and gentrification is not available to us. It's not available to the people that were here. It's like years ahead. It's like a view of years ahead, and we're not going to be here, you know.
It's been about 1 year since the rezoning passed now. Since then, I have just been trying to figure out where I want to go with Save Uptown. I have been educating myself on financial literacy and just trying to think of ways to bring that to the community, since it is a very important part of how we got here in the first place. So aside from that, and definitely expanding outside of Save Uptown, my next steps are I'm currently working on starting workshops with the youth. Even though these things will be included, but these workshops will touch on many different topics. It can be self-love, it can be societal pressures, toxic masculinity, know your rights campaigns, how to deal with the police, immigration. Maybe they're just starting to realize these things, maybe they're just starting to question these things or think about these different topics. And so my whole thing is I just want to be the person that I wish I had when I was younger. I definitely want to showcase my peers that are doing absolutely anything. I want these kids to see themselves in these people that are doing different things, that are following their passions, that are giving back to their communities so that they can know that these things are possible. If anyone wants to join in any way, shape, or form, feel free to reach out. I would more than appreciate that. My email is generation.y@gmail.com, and you can find me on Instagram with that same handle. My whole thing will always be community. It will always involve my community. There will always be knowledge to be had, whether that be about gentrification or rezonings. I will always try to be better and hopefully inspire or motivate others to do the same. That will always just, again, lead back to working with my people.